What's happening? Thanks for joining me on this Monday. Hopefully all of you had a great weekend. Everything Pat's, a New England Patriots podcast. 3 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, live on YouTube. I want to just mention this at the top. So Wednesday's episode, I'm hoping to include a mailbag. So if you have questions about this football team, as we get ready for mandatory minicamp in a couple of weeks, throw me your questions on Twitter at Nick C Radio. It's at Nick C Radio. So we'll have a mailbag being part of the show on Wednesday. This is your chance to ask the questions that you want to ask at Nick C Radio on Twitter. I will be tweeting out a message tomorrow to try to get as many questions as possible so we can hit as many questions as possible on Wednesday. All right, Forged in Foxboro. Very interesting docuseries that the Patriots have begun to show us. And the first episode was this past Friday, and I thought there were a lot of interesting, compelling moments and a lot of interesting and compelling decisions that were made. And all of us could see these decisions made in real time. And I talked about the Forged in Foxborough episode 1 on the Locked On Patriots podcast. You can check out that podcast today if you'd like over at the Locked On Patriots YouTube channel. So I discussed a lot of the takeaways regarding the series and the first episode that we watched, but I did not share all of my takeaways from the Forged in Foxborough episode 1. There was something that was said that really stood out to me. And I'll just start here with Christian Gonzalez. I think Christian Gonzalez is set to have a huge year. I think 2025 could be a great season for Christian Gonzalez. But what stood out to me while watching that first episode of Forged in Foxborough was what Devin McCordi said. Devin McCordi said during that episode, quote, "I think Christian Gonzalez is going to be the best cornerback in the NFL this year," unquote. Devin McCordi. Not that Christian Gonzalez was going to be one of the best cornerbacks in football. Not that Christian Gonzalez was going to be an all-pro. Devin McCordi said in episode 1, "I think Gonzalez is going to be the best cornerback in the NFL this year." Devin McCordi is not a hot take artist. He's not a guy that goes on ESPN and throws crap up against the wall. He's not somebody who's going to scream from the mountaintops to get everybody's attention. That's not how Devin McCordi acts. That's not how he approaches his job in the media. And as we know throughout his career here with New England, he's not really a guy that's going to go too far with his words. If he means something, he says it. So I don't look at McCordi and group him in with the Kendrick Perkinses of the world. That's not what he does. Devin is not a hot take artist. He's not saying this on episode 1 because he wants to cause some kind of ripple effect throughout the media world. He's not saying this in episode 1 so I react and you all react. Devin McCordi is saying publicly on episode 1 that he thinks Gonzalez is going to be the best cornerback in football this year because Devin McCordi simply believes that he's going to be the best cornerback in football in 2025. If you've seen McCordi do any work over the past 6 months to a year, he's been pretty honest in his assessments of this team. He was honest about the coaching staff. He was honest about the level of play from the Patriots this past season. He has been really as honest as you could possibly be in his situation, which is to say, former Patriots great, jumping into the media and having to share his opinions on national television and through local podcasts like Tommy Curran's Patriots Talk. And I thought McCordi this past year had really risen above a lot of other voices and clearly knows what he's talking about and clearly doesn't try to put rose-colored glasses on his face before he talks about his former team. So I take McCordi at his word. I don't believe McCordi is trying to create some kind of hot take that will get people talking. I don't think McCordi is looking at the Patriots and saying, oh, because Christian Gonzalez is a Patriot, I think he's going to be the best cornerback in football. I believe Devin McCordi objectively assesses Christian Gonzalez watches a lot of film across the league, and says to himself, Gonzalez can be the best corner in football in 2025. And when we talk about McCordi watching film, we also have to understand that he is ridiculously bright. His football IQ is through the roof, not only playing safety, but also obviously playing corner. When he first was drafted into the league, he's watched a ton of film, and he understands how to play different positions. He was the quarterback of the defense for a number of years. He was the quarterback of the secondary, making sure that everybody was on the same page. The communication hardly ever faltered when Devin McCourty was on the back end. And so when you look at McCourty and his history within the media, not a hot take artist, he doesn't bend over backwards to acquiesce to the Patriots' glory days. And he is somebody who throughout his career was known as having a very high, a sky-high football IQ, watching film, understanding the game. If Devin McCourty tells me that Gonzalez is going to be the best cornerback in football this season, I believe that Christian Gonzalez at least has a chance to be the best cornerback in football in 2025. And when McCourty said that to me, it jumped out. It jumped out. We know Christian Gonzalez is very good. We know Christian Gonzalez was an all-pro last year. We'll get into that in a couple of minutes. But to say that he's going to jump up and be the best at his position, a premier position in the NFL, to say that he believes, the fact that McCourty says that he believes Christian Gonzalez is going to be the best of the best, I think that speaks volumes about how good this young man can be. All right, before I continue, want to jump to a super chat. Charlie, $10 super chat. Thank you, Charlie. Show was amazing. I appreciate the kind words. Gonzo will be too. McCourty, great in the media. He really is. I think McCourty is very good with his role in the media. I don't find him to just say things to say things. I think he does his homework. And that's why when he says something like this, I don't take it with a grain of salt. I honestly believe what he's telling us. And I believe that McCourty believes Gonzalez is good enough, has the talent to be the best cornerback in the entire NFL. All right, as you sit back and you watch this live stream, or if you're watching on demand, don't forget to click that thumbs up. Don't forget to like this podcast. Of course, that always helps us out. So the more likes, more eyeballs. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to throw your comments in as well. Do you think McCourty's going a little too far with this Christian Gonzalez stuff? Or do you think he's being objective like I do? Let us know how you feel about it. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Trying to hit 7,000 subscribers by mandatory minicamp. We're about 300 away. It's going to take a major push over the next week and a half. We're in the middle of the slow time. So everything that you can do to help us means the world to me. Like, comment, and subscribe. So could Christian Gonzalez be the best cornerback in football in 2025? He absolutely could be the best cornerback in football. And I didn't even necessarily need Devin McCourty to say this for me to approach the idea, to entertain the idea that Gonzalez could be the best at his position in all of football. Gonzalez was a second-team All-Pro, so he's not that far behind. And let's talk about what Gonzalez does, because comparing him to every other cornerback in football, I think, does a disservice to Gonzalez with most of those comparisons, because Christian Gonzalez is a legitimate man cover corner. He plays man coverage as good as anybody. Evan Lazar wrote this at Patriots.com about the Patriots coverage last year. The Patriots played man-to-man at the second highest rate in the NFL in 2024, 45.3%. The Patriots had the second highest level of man coverage, the second highest rate of man coverage in the entire league. And Gonzalez is obviously the number one cornerback within that scheme, within that defensive plan. You don't play 45+% of man coverage unless you believe your number one cornerback is that kind of dude. And obviously, Gerard Mayo, DeMarcus Covington, Mike Pellegrino, all of them felt like Gonzalez was indeed that dude. So when we compare Gonzalez to some of these other corners, people are going to throw a bunch of analytics at you. They're going to tell you that this guy was great last year. This guy was going to be great this year. I understand it. But we have to include the context. And the context tells us that Christian Gonzalez is not only one of the best corners in football and was one of the best corners in football last year, he was one of the best corners in football last year when he was playing within a defense that deployed man coverage at the second highest rate among all 32 teams. Patriots played a ton of man coverage, and Gonzalez was right there in the thick of it, ending up as one of the best at his position. And that matters against other cornerbacks. If you guys have, any idea about Richard Sherman's career, a lot of people said, oh, Richard Sherman's the best cornerback in football. There were people that argued that. There were analysts that argued that. There were people within the game that argued that because they said, well, Richard Sherman, he plays a lot of zone coverage. He plays a lot of zone coverage, and it's easier to play the zone coverage. It wasn't to discredit Richard Sherman's ability to play the game of football. Everybody knew he was one of the better corners in the league. But when you're trying to split hairs, when you're trying to find the difference between the best cornerback in football and the third best cornerback in football, the amount of man coverage that those guys play, that matters. And the fact that Gonzalez played such a high man rate last year, it matters. It gives him the edge against other corners that don't have those kinds of responsibilities. And it wasn't just the fact that you talk about, the level of difficulty playing as much man coverage as Gonzalez and the Patriots did last season. It's also the fact that you can couple the type of defense that Gonzalez was playing along with his analytics. And Gonzo had top-notch analytics last year. Evan Lazar wrote this: despite being tasked with covering top receivers, we'll talk about that in a minute, on an island every week, Gonzo ranked 7th in passer rating, 10th in completion rate among 77 qualified corners. He also had 2 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, and returned a fumble for a touchdown. So not only was Christian Gonzalez asked to play man coverage a heck of a lot more than most corners in the league, he played that man coverage, and he played it at a high level. 7th in passer rating against, 10th in completion rate against. So the analytics and the nature of what he was playing, the approach of the defense, what he was asked to do, those things tell us that Gonzalez was really freaking good in 2024. And then we add the final piece to this puzzle as to why I believe Devin McCordi should be taken seriously when he says on Forged in Foxboro that he thinks Christian Gonzalez is going to be the best cornerback in football this year. It's not only the level of difficulty regarding the defense that Gonzalez was asked to play. It was not just the analytics that Gonzalez put up, but it was also the level of competition. Christian Gonzalez played a bunch of number one receivers last season. And we can fall in love with saying, oh, that guy's a number one receiver. But I'm talking about bona fide alphas. I'm talking about somebody like Jamar Chase. I'm talking about Tyreek Hill. I'm talking about Garrett Wilson. I'm talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm talking about Devontae Adams. Those are just a few of the names that Gonzalez was asked to defend last year, and defend them an awful lot in man coverage. So he's playing a lot more man than most of the league. His analytics tell us that he's playing that man coverage at a high level. And then he's playing that man coverage at a high level against some of the best receivers in football. That's a check, check, and check for Christian Gonzalez. One more thing I'd say about just Gonzalez individually, he's only played 20 NFL games. As we all remember, he was hurt first month of the season in 2023. Stripped him of the vast majority of his rookie season. He's only played 20 games in his NFL career. So he's not even halfway through his second season, for all intents and purposes, at the NFL level. There are still things that he is learning. There are still things that he has to grow comfortable with. Again, remember, I don't pass judgment on rookies. I don't put the final nail in the coffin if they're a quote-unquote bust, or I don't go too bananas until after year 2 to see where they are. Where is that guy after year 2? Did he develop from year 1 to year 2? What's his level after his sophomore season, so to speak? And Christian Gonzalez, last year was his second season, but really last year was his rookie season. The first 13 games he played last year got him to the point of finishing a full 17. So we're talking about somebody who is not even close to being finished with his second season. He's still 14 games away from playing 2 full seasons at the NFL level. 14 more games until we say he's got 2 years of on-field time under his belt. And think about that. Put that into perspective. He's not even midway through his second season on the field, and he's a second-team All-Pro. And he's playing man coverage against top receivers, and he's putting up the analytics that he put up. This is why Devin McCordi understands the learning curve of the NFL. He understands how difficult it could be for a player that jumps into the secondary and is asked to do as much as Christian Gonzalez has been asked to do early in his Patriots career. And McCordi sees Gonzalez up to the task. He's passing the test. And McCordi knows the leap that a player makes from year 2 to year 3. And we saw the leap that Gonzalez made from year 1 to year 2, even though he missed the vast majority of year 1. So why would we not believe Gonzalez going to year 3 with the amount of games that he has played to this point? How could we not believe that he is going to make a big-time leap? Everything would tell you that objectively, looking at the analytics, looking at the matchups that he has dominated early in his career, looking at the fact that he's only played in 20 games. There's enough evidence here for us to believe that Gonzalez, he has another gear. He has another level that he can get to. And if he was second-team All-Pro last year, what is that other gear that he can get to? First-team All-Pro. And when you're a first-team All-Pro, you're in the conversation. You're now in the conversation. You are legitimately part of the elite of the elite. And he's right on the cusp. He is right on the cusp. Now let's talk about some other things that I believe will help Gonzalez be even better this year. Carlton Davis. The addition of Carlton Davis. That I believe that's going to force quarterbacks into some bad decisions. If Davis can stay healthy and Gonzalez can stay healthy, quarterbacks are going to feel that pressure. They're going to feel the pressure of the defensive line, but they're going to feel the pressure of this secondary. They're going to feel the pressure of having to face 2 really good corners. A guy who Devin McCordi thinks is going to be the best corner in football this year, and then Carlton Davis, who's nobody to sneeze at. Any number 2 wide receiver in football, most of those guys don't want to mess with Carlton Davis. Jamar Chase called Carlton Davis his toughest cornerback that he played. Now, that was some time ago, so maybe Chase has changed his mind. But the fact that Jamar Chase listed Davis as that guy at any point tells you how tough Carlton Davis is. And adding Davis to this defense, adding Davis to go along opposite of Christian Gonzalez, that's going to put the pressure on a lot of quarterbacks on this schedule. And when you put pressure on the quarterback, physically or mentally, they're going to make mistakes. And I believe that's going to open the door for Christian Gonzalez to make some more plays on the football this year. And Gonzalez is going to be focused on his assignment. If the Patriots play as much man coverage as I think they're going to play with Davis and Gonzo at the outside cornerback slots, then that's going to be able to help Gonzalez focus on one guy and one guy only. He's going to know the vast majority of the time he's going to take player X out of this game. Focused assignment, tunnel vision, what he has to do, how to combat that receiver's favorite routes, that receiver's tendencies. He's already studying all of this stuff, but he can truly, fix himself on one player because he can now trust Carlton Davis opposite of him. Now, there are questions. The biggest question is the change in the coaching. Pellegrino out. Justin Hamilton in. In one of the nitpicks to this offseason, and it was a small nitpick because I thought the Patriots had a fantastic offseason on paper. But one of the questions I had during this offseason, one of the nitpicks I had was letting Mike Pellegrino go. Cornerbacks coach for the last several years. He had worked with a bunch of different players at different levels. He got the most out of undrafted free agents. He got the most out of late round free agents. He got the most out of, first and second and third round picks. I regard Mike Pellegrino as a really good coach. And so now Justin Hamilton has to back up the decision made by Mike Vrabel and show that he can be as good of a defensive backs coach as Pellegrino was. So there is question about the positional coaching. There's going to be some question about Mike Vrabel, Terrell Williams, their defense compared to the Gerard Mayo, DeMarcus Covington defense. I won't even call it the Mayo defense because we found out he really didn't want anything to do with it. But the DeMarcus Covington defense, the Bill Belichick, Steve Belichick defense, there's going to be some changes with this coaching staff coming in. How does Gonzalez adapt to that? Will they find Gonzalez's strengths to mirror the strengths that they want on this defense? I would imagine so. I have a lot of respect for Mike Vrabel. What I have read about Terrell Williams seems to be a very smart assistant, a guy who was ready for this job as the defensive coordinator. If he comes back healthy and he's ready to go, I believe Vrabel and Williams will fit Gonzalez into their defensive plans and that it will work out. But we do have to question if some of these guys that were on the team last year, some of these guys the last couple of years, are they going to be able to adapt to this new defensive approach, and will it be no big deal? Or will there be some growing pains, so to speak? The other part of Gonzalez being the best cornerback in football, that's what Devin McCordi said he thinks is going to happen. That means that Gonzalez has to leapfrog a couple of really, really good players. I mean, you're talking about having to leapfrog Patrick Surtain, having to leapfrog Derek Stingley Jr. They were first-team All-Pros last season. And when a player usually gets to that level, it's very difficult for another player to leapfrog that guy. And it's not like Surtain or Stingley are going to be aged out. They're both younger players. So Gonzalez doesn't only have to prove to people that he's better this year than he was last year, but he's also going to have to prove to people that he's better than Surtain and Derek Stingley Jr. And that ain't going to be easy. It is tough to leapfrog great players. It's tough to leapfrog great players at premium positions. And it's especially difficult to leapfrog great players at premium positions who are also younger, and they themselves should be improving. But I have a lot of confidence in Christian Gonzalez. And I don't think it's crazy. I think it's far from crazy for Devin McCordi to go out there and in episode 1 of Forged in Foxboro say that he believes Christian Gonzalez is going to be the best cornerback in football in 2025. And if Gonzalez does reach that level, just think about how tough this defense is going to be. This defense is going to be tough because Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis are very talented. But if Gonzalez gets to the level of the best cornerback in football, think about how that changes everything else. Think about how that changes the job of Davis. Think about how that changes the job of the secondary, the safeties in coverage, how much they can devote to other players. If Gonzalez is locked down and is even better than he's been the past couple of years, if he's even better than he was through his first 20 NFL games, if he finds that next level, that trickle-down effect to the rest of this defense, man, it's going to make it very difficult for any offense. Because if we're calling Christian Gonzalez by the middle of 2025 the best cornerback in football, we're talking about that he's a Darrelle Revis type guy. And that is a select company. We're talking that he's at that kind of level. That he can play man coverage at that kind of level. And if you have that kind of corner, not just really good, not just all pro, but the best in the business, when you have that kind of guy in your secondary, that makes it a lot of fun for the defensive coordinator. That opens up so many possibilities for the defense. And it could make life a living nightmare for any opposing quarterback, any opposing offensive coordinator. We talk about the Patriots not really having a game plan guy offensively, and hopefully that changes with Travion Henderson and Kyle Williams. But defensively, you start looking at the game plan guys. Milton Williams is a game plan guy. Christian Barmore, if he gets to, let's say, 80%, is a game plan guy. Christian Gonzalez is a game plan guy already. But if he ends up being better this year than last year, if he ends up at that level of being the best in the business, then Gonzalez is the first game plan guy for any OC. And that's how you start to develop problems for the opposing offense. You start stacking those game plan guys up. If you've got 4 or 5, that means you've got a darn good defense. And I believe that Gonzalez can get to that level. I really do. Anonymous jumps in with a $10 super chat, just an appreciation super chat. Well, thank you, Anonymous, for the 10. I appreciate every single one of you. If you're just jumping in or joining us late, I mentioned this earlier. We're going to include a mailbag on Wednesday's episode. So if you want to be part of the mailbag on Wednesday, shoot me a question on Twitter at Nick C Radio. I'm going to tweet out that as well so I can get some reaction on Twitter. I'll probably tweet that out tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. But if you want to hit me up early at Nick C Radio on Twitter with your question for the mailbag, I'll grab as many as I can grab, and we'll run through some of those during Wednesday's episode live at 3 o'clock right here on YouTube. So hit me up on Twitter the next 36 hours. Also, don't forget to click that like button. Throw a comment in. Those two things help us with the algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe. Trying to get to 7,000 subscribers by mandatory minicamp. The Spotify and the Apple Pods numbers have been great. Thanks to all of you. And I apologize to those on Spotify. For some reason, I got a bunch of comments. I got a slew of comments the other day that I had never seen from like the last 4 or 5, 6 months. I don't know what happened with the Spotify comment system, but I apologize to all of those. I actually got to you very late in the process, but man, oh man. Terry jumps in, $20 super chat. Thanks, Nick. Like the mailbag idea, but I have never tweeted ever. Yeah, I get it. Maybe I'll create an email address, but Twitter's just the easiest way to put it all in one spot. So that's where we'll start. But thank you for the 20, Terry. I appreciate the super chat. I appreciate the support. All right, I'm out of here. Back on Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. Christian Gonzalez, I think, is going to have a huge season. I don't think Devin McCordi is out of his mind saying that Gonzalez is going to be the best corner in football. I think he's in the conversation, and I think he can find that level of 2025 with this coaching staff and some of the additions in that secondary, some of the additions on this defense. Talk to you soon. Appreciate every single one of you.